I believe that each person walks between the line of privilege and victimization at all times. And this happens because we're intersectional. We live in a myriad of realities in parallel. Hello, I am DMR. I will explain later why I go by that as an artistic name. This is my 5th year at Columbia. I'm doing my dissertation. And I basically been in the academic route since I started writing music, because I thought that was the only way to do things. So your teacher tell you, you have to do my theory teacher is like, you have to do a theory PhD, because I was really good at theory. Back in my second, theory 3, when you're doing Neapolitan chords, and I was in a role, I love theory. And I was starting to write back then. This is around 2008. And what is interesting is that I moved from Colombia, the actual country.
Yeah, because you were from Colombia,
yeah.
And now you go to Columbia University.
And everyone is like, oh, that's so funny. Colombian, going to Colombia. I'm like, yeah, haha, you're so original.
Yeah, the first time you ever heard it. Yeah, exactly.
So I wasn't trained when I was little. I always was inclined to do artistic things. I did a lot of drawing, and I would play things on there. Briefly, I was in musical theater. There was this thing called MISI in Bogota, which is a musical theater production for kids training kind of thing. And I was there for 2 years and a half. And it's because it got expensive, and it tends to be for more bougie people. And we were just middle class. And I kind of fell in love with marching band. So marching band became my life, and I started playing cymbals.
Oh, you were playing? Were you marching with the cymbals too?
Yes, in 6th grade.
Okay. Yeah, I was in marching band too. I don't know if
what
you know
do you
that.
play?
I played the quietest instrument. I played the clarinet. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. At 12, I was discovering a lot of things, and I was getting into anything I could. I was doing that was my last year doing the musical theater thing. Then there is this Spanish kind of ensemble called Tuna. I don't know how to explain it, but they have big capes, and they have tambourines, and you sing, and it's vamos Tuna, dun, 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 and you dance with the tambourine. So I did that for 2 months, and I did marching band. So I ended up falling in love with marching band because my cousin had graduated and did marching band in the same school, and she sometimes would pop in and teach how to do snare. So I wanted to really, really go the snare route and do snare. But it never panned out because I started with cymbals. And then one day my friend called me, yeah, by the way, tomorrow we have marching band rehearsal. And it was Saturday. And behold, I got there and it was just winds. And I'm like, I'm not a wind player. What am I doing here? Oh, we just need more winds. And I thought you could just try it.
Just show up and just pick up an instrument and start playing.
Yes, and basically,
okay.
And it's not it's a very strange way to learn music, because at the time in 6th grade we didn't have many options. It was just pocket trumpet, which is again weird for marching band.
Yeah.
I think we were the only ones, all girls school, playing pocket trumpet or bugle horn.
Okay.
And the way that you start playing trumpet was with bugle horn.
Or mellophone or tuba or sousaphone or
nothing else.
So what was doing the low stuff then?
There was nobody.
Oh, there's no low.
No low.
We don't need that. We don't need the bass.
No bass at all. The only bass was the bass drum. I don't know. It was really cool because the main we have the section leaders and we have the drum major, and the drum major would do her thing with pocket trumpet and just cue with the pocket trumpet, and they were really into Latin ska. And the section leader was really tight with the drum major, and they were really into Latin ska, and it was a huge influence in me, and be oh, I want to be cool like them. I want to be Olguita and Carolina, and they're listening to ska, so I'm going to listen to ska. So it started like that. It's exploration of ska. And I was very talented because I was doing just like G5 the first day. I'll pick up the bugle horn.
Just playing that one note?
Like that note, then the C. I mean, but this is F actually because I'm talking trumpet.
In B flat?
In B flat.
Yeah, so transposing it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I played G5 or F5, B flat 5, and like I could
up the series
in the first day.
Wow. Okay. Well, it was just without anybody telling you how to do it. Just,
And it's all of these marches that I learned were like actual like martial things that you will learn by ear. And everyone, like if you are in 8th grade, you are teaching the girl from 6th grade. If you're in 10th grade, you teach the 8th grade. And it's just that type of army culture.
Yeah.
Which again is very strange for an all-girl Catholic school kind of thing to do. And the uniforms were like really short skirts, high boots. But it was a huge influence because in 8th grade we had for the first time the introduction of trombones and the introduction of saxophones and clarinets. So we got 2 clarinets, 2 trombones, and 2 saxophones.
And how big was the band?
I would say the biggest it ever got, it was around when I was 9th grade, it was like 60 kids.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's a big size.
Yeah. And then it fluctuated between 40 to 60. But with the introduction of those instruments, slowly you start to see, because everything before then it was oral tradition. Like, sounds like this, look what I'm doing. And now it's like, hey, by the way, sheet music exists. And
so you guys weren't using any sheet music? You were doing it all what about the drill? How were you doing the actual marching?
We just practiced. I mean, we had a teacher. And that's the other thing that it was like kind of strange. They didn't have a teacher for a couple of years and then they had a new teacher. Yeah. So the drum major was bumpy heads with the teacher. Yeah. Because for 2 years they were like training and doing things on their own, and then there's like this guy. And he was actually also training for La Escuela Militar and other stuff. His name is Ferney. And you can see the tension, but you were kind of little because you don't understand what's going on too, like if you're new to the marching band. But then looking back, you kind of...
Well, people in marching band are like so passionate, you know, about marching band. Like more so than like if you go to Juilliard and you see the orchestra musicians, most of them don't care to play an orchestra. But the marching band kids, like they're serious. I remember when I was in marching band, like I wanted to win city champs every year. Like that's all I cared about, winning city champs. And looking back, I'm like, why did I care so much about that?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I get, and yes, I agree. And we compete in a couple of, like every year we go to 2 big competitions. We did pretty good.
Yeah.
And the whole drill is because this guy was trained, so he would tell us how to do it. And again, we would train how to do it. But it's just, there are this type of standard marches, like Ayacucho, Matallana, like they're just tan, ta, ta, tan, ta, ta, tan, puru, 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 boom, 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 and again, it repeats.
Will you ever play like Western music? Ever? For the marching band?
So this is what is strange. We were doing this like very martial army-like marches, and then the big influence of ska, we were doing Matador, which is a ska song from this Argentinian band called Los Fabulosos Cadillacs. And that was just so ingrained because of the culture of the section leaders and the drum major. And then we added another song by them, Mal Bicho. And then we started to do like more, when the introduction of these instruments, we started to do cumbia, we did Sal Si Puedes, no, Boca, ta 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 ta. It's not Sal Si Puedes.
You're going to get me copyright strike.
Boquita Salada, I think, doesn't it? Oh, God, I forgot.
But were you thinking ever when you were doing all this musical stuff, like with all these kids? Because I know that for me, it was always like, I always had composing in my back of my mind, but I always like didn't really want to like put that as the front and center thing that I do. It was like always like very like self-conscious, like, oh, you know, I play this instrument, but this is not really what I want to do. I rather write for all of you. Did that ever cross your mind while you were in band, or was composing like a bit after that?
I feel that what really changed my life in band is feeling accepted in a group or being part of a culture of friends. Because like all of my high school friends that I still talk to, most of them were in the marching band. Like Ana Bolena did clarinete and also was one of the, I don't know, that's more British, but the little stick that they toss around. And
oh, the rifle people, the color, not the color guard.
But similar to color guard.
Like a dance team. There's a better word for it, but I know what you're talking about. But the people that are
have like
not
this
the
little
musicians, the more the choreography part of it, the dancers. Yeah.
But yes, but this is like and I remember this a lot is because this teacher showed us, oh, this is a British tradition, and he would show us that, and I can see it, like it just like you can see. I mean, I'm sorry I don't have the reference. I know.
It's okay.
So Ana Olena was a clarinet player, and there was like this huge drama about the new instruments because I wanted to play sax, and they were like, no, you're a really good trumpet player. We don't want to lose you in the trumpet, so you go to relearn anew. And I was really pissed. I'm like, I wanted the saxophone. And
the trumpet is like probably more needed in a marching band than saxophone. You can't really hear it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with these new instruments, we start to see music sheet. I never really liked the music sheet because I relied a lot on my memory. So what I would do is write the notes like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, or so, like C, like C sharp, do sostenido, like the little hashtag, and or bemol with the flats, and then I would write the numbering, like.
So you knew the solfege, you just didn't know what it looks like with standard music notation.
Yes.
So you know do, re, mi, fa, sol, you know all those things, but you didn't know that, okay, that dot on this line is sol. Right? Is that what you mean?
It was the basics. Like I knew the the 5 lines on the stave. I knew my G clef and where it was. It's just for me, my brain is not practical. To think about rhythm that way, because for me rhythm at the time and still now it is something that you feel within your body.
Really?
Instead of being like, I understand notation translate that, but I don't think you can feel it when you see it. I feel like all the senses in music are, maybe it was my training that visually I could not connect with my body, like seeing a visual cue to say my body to do something, it never made sense. Like for me it was something, you feel it, you learn it, you do it. So it's more of a memory practice in that sense. So I would see the music sheet, and I would write the trumpet numbers and the notes, but I would not the sheet music part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know, it makes sense. I mean, I didn't learn that way at all. It was I was very like, oh, I don't know why, but when I was like 7, I wanted to write music like Mozart. Like that was my thing, even though like there's no classical music, anything in my family, and you know, none of that. It's just like, oh, this is the way you're supposed to do it. You have to learn how to read. So when I played piano, it was to read the music. I didn't even care. I didn't want to compose anything until I could read the music. It wasn't like, okay, here, give me a piano and let me just improvise. It was like I had to know what I was reading, and that's always been ingrained in me from the beginning. So to hear like this, for me, is like actually a breath of fresh air. And a lot of people at Columbia are like this, at Columbia University, are like this, that they don't, I'm actually a little bit jealous of it, because I am like so held to the page and what I write down, that's it. And like, it kind of blocks my mind off to other possibilities. But while I was at Juilliard, it was the opposite. It was like everything that you want to do, you need to make sure you precisely write it down, and you need to explain it. And it was like this kind of more like traditional, maybe Beethoven mentality to writing. Like it has to be written on the page or else it doesn't exist. which actually is funny that I say that because he also didn't put a lot of metronome markings and dynamics and things like this. A lot of them were like this as well. So.
It's, I mean, I feel it could be, I don't know if it's a cultural thing. But I mean, when I say culture, I mean the group of people that are immediate in your like your social context. I'm not saying like the country or religion or, and also because when these new instruments came to marching band, I was becoming the new leader section for the woodwinds, for the winds in general. So I had to make sure that I knew first. So I need to learn quick so I can teach.
Oh, right, because you got to teach the sixth graders coming in.
Exactly. And because of that reason, I cannot bother learning the rhythm. I need to learn it so I can teach and pass it down. And it was the first time, because all the time everything was homophonic, not homophonic, but monophonic. Like, we don't have, like, I don't know if
like there was no harmony?
No harmony, it was just
notes?
like percussion and monophony.
Yeah.
So like the tan da da tan da da tan. In our marching band then, it was just everyone, like every buglehorn, every pocket trumpet and trumpet was playing the same notes.
Wow, okay. That's very different than than any other wind band I've heard. Yeah, it's always like 4 or 5 parts going, counterpoint sometimes going on.
And then in 8th grade, it was like introduction of second and third voices, which is also like, oh wow, this is also possible.
Yeah.
And from then, I really got into it, and I started like listening to ska songs from Los Elefantes, Dr. Crápula, La Savera Matacera, like all of these, Escabiosis, Escampida, like any group, and I would try to learn the trumpet solos. And my favorite was from Los Elefantes, a group from my hometown, Bogota, and this song called Peche, which is about like really hardcore tobacco without a filter kind of song.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the song is inspired by this Eastern European song movie. So it's like a cover, but made up lyrics in Spanish. And it has like this really crazy Soviet / like thing from that area of the world, and that was my favorite solo to just, and I learned it by memory. So I learned all of these solos for my personal, like for my own enjoyment. The other thing that I would do for my own enjoyment was just drawing a lot of anime, like Sailor Moon was my thing, and Evangelion was my thing, like really weird mix of a girl. Like now that I think about it, like kind of particular. So yes, the trumpet solos were for that. And then I became a section leader, and in 10th grade I became the drum major. So I started directing.
How long was was it till 12th grade? Is that the highest?
11th.
11th grade. So there were some people that were 11th graders in the band then, I'm assuming, and you were in 10th grade.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of friction, I'm assuming, at that age when someone is younger than you as the boss. I
think more than that is the style of how you would lead, and it was a nice taste of me. Like I take things seriously, but obviously sometimes I do not. So it was this. So that would rub people the wrong way. Like people like, we have to start at this time, like more punctual, and I'm like, yes, but relax, like.
I was the opposite as drum major. I was a bad drum major. I mean, I think I was decent, but I wasn't having. I definitely made it less fun. Let's put it that way. I was definitely like way too let's win at all costs, and I don't think the others in my year or even a year below were like on board with that, with that vision. So that kind of. So I guess I wasn't a good leader in that way because I wasn't able to put my vision with everybody else. It's just that I had a vision that was like singular and nobody else wanted to go along with it. So it created a lot of friction. in terms of like, just people didn't like. I used to get along with everyone before I was drum major, and then as soon as I became drum major, like I can always feel that there was some tension, and I just didn't know like what to do. Like I didn't have maybe I don't know what it was, but I just you're 17 years old at that time. You don't know how to lead. You're 17.
Yes, yes.
But you seem to
15,
you had the opposite approach, which probably was more smart.
Well, but you still have a group of people that I think that's when you learn not everyone's going to like you and your style and how you're going to deal with that and be okay with it. Because that's something that is going to be going for the next. Because I feel that I was perceived that I was more talent than practice, which in a way it could be true. Like I was committed to the band because, when I heard that the nuns canceled the program, like this was around 2012 or 2010, like I had to sit down and cry because it was such a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
Like for 6 years, like going Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays and Saturdays were like practice, like band practice.
Yeah, it's a big part of same here. It was like this too. All the music. I was part of the orchestra in high school also. Not always, but I would play clarinet if they needed me. And then also the jazz band. They had a jazz band, and I would go in like at 6 a.m. We had jazz band practice. Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah, it was really intense. I was playing piano, but band is like that. Band has it ingrains something in people. I don't know what it is. I don't know what makes people go crazy when they're in band. Like they have this kind of frenetic energy when they're in band that like can't really be replicated with that many other activities in high school. Like I don't know, there are people in the Science Bowl, people in people that play golf or people that play basketball, but there's something about being in the band that is completely like frenetic. That's the best word I can think of. I don't know. And it's common like with not just one school, but all the schools. Hearing it from you. Especially
in another country.
Very similar. Yeah, another country. Like what you're saying, I can connect with easily. Like it was yesterday I was in band.
Oh, yeah. It was a huge, and the other thing that happened in 9th grade was we had a new music teacher, Jose Luis Medellin, and he was like, yo, there are other ways of making music. Let me introduce you to really how to make an arrangement. So we had this hate my last year of high school, and we are all, God, now it's blurring down, It was 10th grade or 11th grade, but he did an arrangement for Oye Como Va. And it was the first time that I felt like a musician because everyone was playing their own part and everyone is grooving like da 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 da, and you're doing with trumpet, and the entrance was great. And the last big arrangement that he made, I was just sitting down. Oh, and that's the other thing that happened between 8th and 9th grade. We're trying to establish the wind band.
Oh, like the concert band, because now sitting properly in a circle and presenting a show, not outside.
Yeah. And what is crazy to think about is like this year is the first time in Jazz al Parque. So Bogota has this huge cultural thing that started in the 90s with Rock al Parque, which is the biggest festival of rock that you can attend for free in Latin America. And it was huge. Well, I think it's still huge. And then it became Jazz al Parque, like another genres became like their own festival. And this year, Jazz al Parque, for the first time, it had an all-girl jazz band ever in Colombia.
Okay, wow.
And the fact that we were starting a little wind symphony in a school at 2002, it's kind of like, wow, maybe nobody knew, it was just our parents and our friends, but the fact that, okay, there's been something trying to make.
Yeah, some, not improvement, but development maybe is the right word for it. Yeah.
And it's like, wow, it's good to see that now in Colombia, they're doing these like projects.
And I mean, like growing up in this way is, because I mean, I grew up in the States, so I like these Western instruments are all that I knew. I never thought, okay, this is just the instruments that we play. I mean, did it ever cross your guys' mind, or your girls' mind, I guess, that these are not our instruments. These are like foreign instruments that we've just been handed. Like, I'm so curious because you were there, and then you spent a lot of your life in the U.S. So now that all kind of goes full circle.
Well, at the time, I didn't even know that. I mean, I knew Mozart and Beethoven existed, but I didn't know about Haydn. At the time, it was just like, I'm doing this for fun. Let's see what it is. I like music. Like, I wasn't thinking about. And it's like, oh, I'm good at this. Why I should continue it? So I never like really thought about political or issues with music. I would think about it more in the broad sense of international affairs. You know, like I would like, my school was really good at humanism, geography, geopolitics. Why? I don't know, but
and the American schools are not known for this. I don't know.
So I knew like the US and Europe, and because education at the time, it was like, yes, Cristobal Colon discovered America, and then it's like, no, actually, no, that's not how it happened. So we learned a little bit about that it wasn't discovered. But I never, at least in school, we never were taught to tie it together back to music, to really see it critically, or we're just hanging out, we're just grooving.
Right, and these just happen to be the apparatus that we're doing it by. It almost doesn't matter what it is you're holding. It's just something that is binding you guys together and making some kind of sound. Yeah. So, I mean, one thing interesting that I heard from you, I was watching an interview that you did about Beethoven. And I thought it was so interesting because I have a very similar kind of thing that happened. I mean, you were, I don't know if you remember you talking about this, but you were saying that there was some song that you heard in Colombia. There was a melody, and you associate it with that particular song. But really, it's a song. It's a piece by Beethoven, and you didn't know that that this was a Beethoven. I would love to hear a little bit more about this because I have a very similar thing with Mozart.
I see. I don't remember what piece is this, but I think if I remember correctly, or what is coming to mind right now is there is this really huge Mexican comedian called Roberto Gomez Bolaños, and he would do sketches of this vecindario, or like these scenes from the hood, or like neighborhood kind of setting. He would have like the kind of comedy, like a comic, funny Mexican superhero. I'm sorry, it was actually a Mexican superhero according to the social context from that time. It's 1970s, 1980s. And the opening is Beethoven, but it's in a synth, like dun 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 dun. Well, it might be out of key, but kind of like that. And it was really playful. I never thought it was Beethoven until like discovered, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
So you heard that the actual Beethoven, you're like, wait, hold on, there's something going on
this
here.
Is like, and I don't know if I might have heard it, but I think I read like, oh no, this actually the producer, the guy, the creator of El Chapulín Colorado, which is the name of and El Chavo, like Roberto Gomez Bolaño actually picked this song. Like he knew where's it coming from, we never were taught, because again, we think strings and pianos are older music.
Right.
But this was a thing in the opening, so it was hard to connect the dots.
Yeah, I mean, I just heard this rap song. They were using La Campanella, they were using the Paganini in it, and I was like, but they were using the actual violin sample. They didn't like synthesize it. It was like straight up like Paganini. It sounded crazy. I mean, it sounded good, but it was still like, you know, people don't care about, you know. What I'm trying to say is people outside of our like academic circle, I'm not sure if they actually think about these things as closely as we do. Like we put them at such, I mean, I'm saying something that's probably against the grain of how our academic, you know, colleagues think about these kind of things. But I don't see this as a huge concern outside of our circles. Like people are barring people without any regard. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but they're doing it. And there's this other example of a Jay-Z song, Big Pimpin', that uses a like sample from an old Arabic song from like the 1940s. And the first time I heard it, I was like, what the heck? This is Arabic music, and it's Jay-Z, and it was weird. But you know, that's what it was. He just took it and that was it. But there was a little bit of a lost veil, but it was settled and things move on. Nothing happened to Jay-Z. He's still like a billionaire, and you know he's still doing, like, he didn't get canceled for that. You know, so I just think it's really interesting to hear, you know, this Beethoven story when you said it in that interview. There was this Fayrouz song. Fayrouz is big Lebanese. She's a huge Lebanese singer, and she has this song. It's like all in Arabic. I don't remember the Arabic lyrics, but it's like straight up Mozart, you know. But nobody over there knows it's Mozart. You know, they think it's Fayrouz. When they hear it, it's like, oh, that's Fayrouz. You know, that's not Mozart. And it just became Arabic music, just like that, because Fayrouz sang it, and like she took it for herself. It's almost not like I wouldn't even call it like Westernization. It's almost like she took it and made it her own, instead of like, oh, she was colonized, you know? So
it's just, I mean, did Jay-Z took this sample from Fayrouz, or that's a difference?
No, it was a different artist. I think it was Abdul Halim Hafez. Yeah, different person, but it was from earlier on, like the 30s, 40s, and it was just the musical background. It wasn't the no voice in it. Yeah.
Well, what is very interesting about Mozart, and this really, like, how I see or try to listen to Mozart really changed when I went to Turkey this past winter. And I went to this cultural center, and they were displaying Turkish music, and it was a sheet music, and it was the manuscript. And I started like sight reading in my mind, and I'm like, hold on, this sounds like Mozart. And then it's like Mozart Rondo, the
Turkish March,
Idomeneo. And I'm like, hold on, Homeboy was borrowing from here. And I'm like, why? They have a different tuning and they have different scales. And it's like Mozart is making this his own, like the influence. Especially at the time, the Ottoman Empire was big. It was like revered.
That was the thing. Yeah.
And it was the huge central culture, all of this, you have Muslims, you have Christians, you have Jews trading there, more broadly cultural center, and a lot of more interchange with Germanic lands. So I can see, like, now I try to, when I listen to Mozart, I try to look for the Turkish thing.
Right.
Because I'm sure he was borrowing from it.
Yeah, it was way more of an influence on the global culture than like Turkey is now, for example. Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, like how interesting would be to listen to Mozart with a Turkish tuning system. Like, would it be closer to actual Turkish classical music, or like I wanna know what that sounds like. Because you talk about Fayrouz, like, of course the motif is similar, is the same, but the tuning is gonna make the difference.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty equal tempered, to be honest. When she's singing, it sounds pretty similar. Yeah. But when you got either the drums in the background and the strings, they do this kind of like heterophonic thing when they play. Like they're not all like bowing at the same time. They're all playing the same music, but it's not like completely the same bowing or the same ornaments. So there is like elements of it that brings you out of the Mozart. But I mean, this is kind of something that that I deal with all the time in my stuff, my music, because it's like there are some pieces where I literally am like, what if Bach was born in Alexandria? You know, like what if he was actually born there and like he had all the talent that he had, you know, in Leipzig, but he was just in a different place. Like, what would that be like? And you know, so I put those questions in my mind, and it's more like an exercise more than like thinking about geopolitics or thinking about like the implication of what I'm doing. It's just like a fantasy in my head, like and trying to make it reality. So that's why I think, you know, maybe it's a little against the grain, but it's like I feel like all these things are fair game for anybody to use, no matter where you're from, as long as you have some sort of reason for doing it and not like just to throw paint at the wall or just to cause like a fuss. Like you actually have some kind of fantasy. I think that's a word that Haas uses a lot, like having a like literal fantasy or spirituality around it, something like almost otherworldly about why you're doing this, because like why else are we composing? Like it's like there's more music is not really needed, right? You know, we have so many thousands, millions of hours of music out there.
The other thing that I've learned, like just going about that, I've been watching these Vice documentaries on how this song was made. So you have like the song, you have Wasn't Me by Shaggy, like you have Cisco or Shaggy. So it's looking really a little bit like, it's really nice to see how a song is produced in a very pop culture like, because what you find is that somebody else has done something similar with the same motive and you're bringing it to life, and then you see another person adding another thing and the other person adding another thing. And the funny thing about the song is that the violinist kind of created his own and just the intensity of the song, and then how these two guys, like just one mistake that the song that these two guys made was the base for the song, and that song was meant to be shared with Michael Jackson and not with Cisco, but that was a mistake and Cisco liked it, and it's this whole drama, and then you add the violinist and how the video, and it's like, I want this half step modulation climax, and then when you listen again to the song, it has this huge more value, because it's a group of people teaming up and getting ideas, and they have like, they were sued by Ricky Martin's group because they quote "Living la vida loca."
Oh, they do. Well, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So there was this suit, and because of that line, but it's the fact that you're getting some of these ideas as a group and getting together, which I really value in popular music, and I kind of wish in an academic setting we could do more, like a group of people composing one thing together and create this synergy, because as a composer we are very lonely until the rehearsals. When
we're almost wish we were lonely at that time, we're like, well, there's too many people here.
Like, and it's just, and of course you have collaborative process of I go to the musician and then we ask and we talk, and that's good, but it's not a continuous energy going and flow. It's more of a one time and you go back, retract, and maybe try, but it's not continuous. It's not, I don't know, it's not.
Well, I mean, with some of the composers that have like ongoing relationships with the same ensemble, I mean, they have that kind of luxury of trying out like similar ideas and like what's the next chapter of that idea, and they kind of understand their language and they move on. But that's like a very particular scenario.
Yeah, and I feel that's been harder to establish in academic settings, I know that I'm passionate about academic settings or ensembles. Like, it's hard to be a musician in the US. Like, to keep up an ensemble, it's a whole full job. But also you have to teach so you can eat. And you also have to go to gigs so you can eat. And of course, one person cannot do it all. Like, you cannot do it like direct an ensemble, be the artistic director of ensemble, play in other ensembles. And like, I understand why there are some like cracks, because everyone is doing what they can with what they have.
When you say cracks, you mean? Like they're not, they're thinning themselves out, so some parts of their thing are not as good as you would think that they would be at. Like, yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Like, you know, you're a teacher, you're a director of an ensemble, you're a composer, you're maybe a sound engineer on the side, but like maybe people notice that, oh, you're not like showing up to your teaching on time, or maybe not grading.
And like everything takes priority, again, with the time you have when you can do it.
Yeah.
So also, being an artistic director for an ensemble, you have to do PR, and PR is social media, and social media is an all job, a whole job by itself. That if you have to schedule your posts, then the whole admin thing, like
you don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me.
It's a lot of work. And so I think because we are all where we are, at least in academia, we're so thin out, we cannot create this energy, collaborative energy, as intensely as we could.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I noticed that everybody, including myself included, we're like kind of like in our own silos. Like everyone is doing like something completely different that is like has nothing to do with the other person, which is a good thing for like diversity, right? But for the whole like community aspect, it becomes difficult. So like sometimes diversity makes it difficult for the other facets. But I mean, I still think diversity is better than the other way around. But there are issues that come with it, I think. I think you're highlighting some of these things.
And the other thing about diversity that I'm all pro, of course, because I have to be thankful of the opportunities that I've been given, and recognize my space and my privilege on that. My biggest criticism to the whole diversity push that is coming from an institutional perspective, in which institutions must look better, but institutions are not thinking, are these people feeling okay in this environment? Is this friendly for them? Is this a space where they can create? Do they feel valuable here? Like, there is not this human thing. It's like, we want you in a poster. You look great in our poster. Oh, you're so ethnic. Yes, we love that. And yes, we are diverse. And the poster doesn't show many realities behind, which is like, maybe the person doesn't feel comfortable in the environment. Maybe the environment is actually very hostile. Maybe, so it's not centered on the people who need the support. It's centered on how the institution looks. And that's my biggest criticism with the whole diversity push, which I strongly believe should be shifted to the needs of these people who we are trying to include.
Yeah. I mean, on the other side of that, I'm not playing devil's advocate, but just on the other side of that, because I've met with a lot of these, especially orchestra, because I do a lot of orchestra, is these people that work for orchestra, they also struggle, and I'm talking about the admin, they also struggle with what we were talking about earlier, that they have to also wear a lot of hats. So then the cracks also start to happen with those folks. So we think as these composers that are like basically freelancers, right? In this space, because we're just, or even if you want to say independent contractor, you know, we're there and then we're out. You know, we come for a week and then we're out. And then, not to play devil's advocate and all of that, because what you're saying is definitely true. But from their side, I can also see it because I've met a lot of those people, and they also have to wear a lot of hats, and the cracks start to go through, just like what we were talking about earlier. And I actually was talking to a conductor very recently, like in the last couple of weeks, and I remember telling him, you know, you guys, we were talking about the diversity situation also with him. He's not, like he's from another country as well, and you know, so he and I kind of agree, kind of align in some of these things. But I was telling him, you know, your job is not to make program decisions or like to decide like who your guest should be. You're the conductor, you know. You're supposed to be in charge of the orchestra, and you already also, whether you like it or not, are in charge of bringing money to the orchestra because you're the face. So you have to be with the patrons, and I mean that's just part of the job of being a conductor. And then on top of that, you have to decide on what the music is going to be for the next 2, 3, 4 seasons, who your commissions are going to be. How are you going to do that? Like how are you going to actually do that in a fair way? Because there's no way you have time to sit there and listen to 500 pieces. That, you know what I mean? And so I was telling him that I don't know why orchestras don't, I'm not trying to just say this about orchestras, but that's what I have experience with. It's like, why don't they just hire like a new music advisor? You don't even have to pay them that much. It's a part-time basis, you know, like a few hours a week or whatever it is. And these people have their ear to the ground. You know, like if you were like a new music advisor for an orchestra, it doesn't have to be the New York Phil or whatever. It could be anything. It could be, because there's so many great regional orchestras in the US as well, or, you know, even in other countries. Why can't, what's stopping them from hiring you to be their ear to the ground? It's like, oh, you know, so-and-so's piece I just heard, you know, you should at least consider it, or this person's piece. And then it becomes less about you being like composer in residence and more about you being like helping other people that you know get in with this institution. It creates a bridge that I don't think would be like that much of a cost to the institution. It kind of helps both sides. I don't know what you think about that, but it was something that this guy, like, it was just like it turned on a light when I told him. It was like, I can't believe nobody has thought of that, but
I mean, but I think part of it, there is the culture that I kind of criticize in contemporary classical music is that it relies on people to be self-taught in, like, you have to have, like, if you want to have a good portfolio, you should have a really good audio. If you want to have a good audio, you should learn how to record. You should know how to mix, you should know how to edit and make it as professional as possible. Because if you put your portfolio with not great audio, your portfolio has lesser chance to make it to the next phase.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like, not only you have to be the composer, you have to be the engineer. And engineering is not only mixing or editing, it's also mastering. So that in itself, you're wearing 2 hats, and then you have to apply to grants, so you become your own grant
writer. Yeah.
And then you have to show up to concerts because you need to meet people so you can network and greatness. And that's the other thing that I kind of don't like, is just concerts. The after concert is not as fun as it was for me like 6 years ago. Like, see my friends. It's more like, what are you up to? What are you writing? What is your next project? I'm like, I just want to chill.
And it's hard not to ask those questions too, because like you haven't seen them in a while, and that's kind of like the go-to thing you want to know about first before knowing about, oh, how was your day? Or what did you eat yesterday? Or do you want to go somewhere or whatever? Yeah. And that's part of the reason we're doing this, because I don't think I've ever talked to you this long before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and it's a shame on me, but also it's like you said, it's part of the system. Like we literally have to like create friction in that system to make these kind of things happen. Me putting up the lights, that's friction. Putting this camera, posting it on YouTube, picking you up from the station. I mean, these are all moments of friction that somebody doesn't need to do. But unfortunately, that's, especially in the U.S., these are like, if you want to do something outside the norm, I think you have to kind of be the friction yourself, and it's really scary. But I think that's kind of what's the problem, you know, that you have to like throw like almost like an Allen wrench in it to do something different.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree completely, and I think that's the way to go, because I feel that for a long time we have relied too much on big names to make the filter, you know, what's considered good or bad, and then why we know so very little composers when in reality we know like just friends of ours could be between the two of us at least 200 people. Like if we started like thinking who do we know? Just composers,
and they're all gonna be good.
Yes,
they're not like, you know, they're all gonna be good, and they've done stuff and several pieces, and yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, that's what we need to do. Just question, why do we think this name has this value? Like what is attached to it? What is the history of it? What is the name of the institution? You know, it's just backtracking to see, okay, maybe we can take this way out and create our own niche and space. And that's a hard thing to do when you've been trained, especially, I don't know about you, but in conservatories.
Yeah.
You need to do 4-part writing, you need to do a score reading. And yes, these things are super valuable and they're great, great skills. And yes, it will make you a better musician. But why do we stop improvising in the 1700s? Because we relied too much in the score. And now we have this huge improvisatorial movement, and then classical musicians are, I feel like, they're catching up.
Yeah, myself included. Yeah. If you tell me to improvise, when I was in jazz band, I was asked to improvise, and it's so embarrassing. I took, you know, I put all the chords up there with the voicings that I wanted, and I never improvised the voicings, even when I was comping, and like I'm definitely one of those people that like I can't, like if you tell me to improvise, I'll be like, oh God, I don't know what to do, you know. Yeah. It was never part of growing up in this like conservatory mindset.
And that reminds me of another person that was really important when I was at the Boston Conservatory, and that's Pierre Hurel, this French pianist that taught improvisation for classical musicians. And it was just like, let's jam. And he would have a system. And he would say, okay, the first class, if it is like 10 or 12 people, it's just like 2 groups. And we're gonna play just one note, and you're gonna pick one note only. You're not going to know which note is everybody playing, but you're just gonna play one note, and you're gonna treat it as the most careful thing. And like it's your child. And when you bring your child to the school bus, you need to make sure he has everything he needs. A little scarf, and he would do like these kind of signs, very cute. And I took this class like 2 or 3 times because you can retake it. And each semester was different because the people change. And you start like opening up your ears for the other note the other person is playing. And as class advanced, you added more notes. The professor added more notes, so it was just 2 notes or 3 notes. And then the ensembles became smaller.
And did the idiom, I hate to use that word, the idiom of the language, did it ever like sound like anything in particular, like any school of thought, like, or like how did that, I'm like once you start adding more notes, people start to gravitate towards like sounding like Mozart or sounding like Coltrane or sounding like?
It was a moment. There were, like, one of the funnest one is when I did with my friend Cliff. I remember he was there and I was playing the piano. And I started doing a childless thing, like dun, 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 and it became this machine, and people started just going along and responding, and then the machine broke down. So the idiom, I mean, that was one way. It felt like a moment of music, a moment of experiencing sound and appreciating the sound. And that was one of the most successful moments. Another time, this huge trombone player, fantastic player, really knew his jazz. So I was in the piano again, and I was trying to do sparse things because, of course, I've been trained in contemporary classical music, and then just going strange.
Yeah. Other sounds.
Yeah. And he just started doing like these huge jazz licks, and everyone, like the rest of the people who were improvising, did not like try to keep up, but because there was an imposition of idiom, people didn't know how to.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
And that was more of and the cool thing about this class is that at the end of each improvisation, everyone should give their opinion and feedback in the most kind way. So you're learning to sit down and be audience and listen, like deep listening, and learn how to give feedback in that kind, like ask questions and give feedback in a kind way. Like, I would like more of this, like, and you can agree. And one of the feedbacks for that particular moment of this kid playing jazz was like, we have to understand that music works like a language, and as a language, there are many. And because you choose this one, not everyone knows that language, so they could not answer to you. And I'm like, wow, that's...
Yeah, like if you're like speaking Spanish here and I'm speaking English the whole time, it's like, what the heck is going on?
Yes. And it's like maybe someone who knows both languages can understand.
Yeah.
But again, it's that made me start thinking about diversity and like more than diversity, inclusion. Like,
yeah, the inclusion part of it is the part that I think kind of gets dialed down compared to the diversity part, which is very interesting. Because you mentioned about the institutions before, how you of course it was diverse of them to bring you on, but you didn't feel included.
Exactly.
So there is a reason why it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, that probably that last part is the most important, because you can be any person and still not feel included.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, I absolutely agree. And that was the first time, that was the first time that I understood why that every time there is this huge thing happening in the world, it happens to be tragic. And everyone that is a classical musician, older, I would say, or that are just or beginners, and they go and quote Leonard Bernstein, and you're gonna make louder and better music, and you know that quote?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, music is not a single language, like everyone.
It's not, everyone thinks it's a universal language.
So, no,
it's definitely, this is the most ridiculous thing ever.
It's like, what do you mean classical music? Like, no, that's the least, if anything, because you have to know how to learn how to read.
Yeah, there is that connotation that it's classical music, it's the universal music. Whereas, I mean, music, for music's sake, is generally universal. I mean, every culture basically has some version of music. But I think when they say that, they're meaning classical, music, right?
Oh, yes, and that time is just, okay, music is not a universal language, and we cannot codify it as such. I was going somewhere.
But also, I mean, when people are posting on social media and stuff like this, I mean, that's the other part of it. And the other part of why I'm doing this, and I don't really post on Facebook I do. I post pictures of this dog here on Instagram. I mean, that's what it's for. You can't have real discussions. And I see people posting about really serious stuff on Instagram, Facebook. I'm like, this is just not the way to talk about these things, and TikTok and whatever. I mean, is this the way to talk about these things? I don't know, but to me, this is at least a step in another direction.
That's the beauty of YouTube, because of the format. Like, the format could be expanded, and it has more nuance, like a conversation. And you can see the whole grayscale.
Right.
Like, it's not, this is what's happened here, and this is what you can do. And then you just slide the shot.
I just can't. And I think also there's something that those things do to your brain that maybe because we're a little older, it didn't really hit us as hard because like we didn't really get Facebook until we were like in high school or something, middle school, maybe college, yeah, high school for me. But it was like, so it probably didn't affect our brains as much. At that time, Facebook wasn't like what it is now.
And
we didn't have Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. So I don't know, our brains probably weren't as affected. But I mean, I could see it in my younger cousins and stuff like, you know, this stuff is not great. And what is this going to do to us and our music? Because we sit there and we make these pieces that are like, they're not 3-minute long pop songs, you know. Even like I've seen 6-7 minutes, which is a short to us. This is a long piece to people. To us, it's like, oh my God, 6-7 minutes. Like I want to write something longer. And it's that kind of also scares me a little bit. It's like I wonder what this will do to our field. Like, will people be writing shorter and shorter pieces? I mean, so far I don't see that happening. I see people still writing like these, you know, 10, 15-minute pieces, generally speaking.
But it has gotten shorter. Like, I went to this concert in the New York Phil. Marcus Balter was there. It was commissioned. So it was like the big opening of the season, I guess, like that concert. And the other composer that was there, it was also Tania León and John Adams. And the huge contrast is that the Marcus Balter piece and the Tania León piece are relatively shorter than the John Adams piece. The John Adams piece is 30 minutes. And
which John Adams piece was it? Was it the Father piece?
Yes.
It wasn't Harmonia. It was something about the... I've heard this piece before, but I don't remember the title. My father was some anecdote
related
about his father.
To
Charles Ives or something like this.
Yes, that one.
Possibly. Yeah, I have heard this piece. It's long, yeah.
Yeah. So, that was commissioned in the 90s. And now,
it's an old piece, yeah.
And this is 2022, and they commissioned Marcus, and it's 50-minute piece. So there has been changes on timing, or like, yes, I would say that. And also it's contextual. This is like the American context, which European context is another different just space and attitude towards notated music. So I would say in the American space, I think is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And the other thing that is happening with TikTok, with pop artists, is that they write a soundbite. And if people like it in TikTok, people ask to finish the song. So they make it longer.
Really? I didn't know this. So they like write like a little part of the song, and then people like it and they finish the song.
If virals finish the song.
So they're spreading this. They're releasing the song before it's even done.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And then, but what labels are doing is that we are not gonna give you a deal if you're not an influencer.
Yes.
Because they want someone that is able to move people, and that's why Doja Cat is such a huge hit, because she plays with TikTok really well, and she has millions of followers.
Yes. I mean, that makes sense. I don't know if every label will be like that. But these people that do this on TikTok or whatever, what's stopping them from starting their own company? Why do they even need to be with a label? Like, what do they need that for?
But this is very young people that don't know the industry.
Yes.
That they're just trying to make music.
But I'm just thinking 5-10 years down the line, like what's stopping these people from having their own mini companies? I mean, like Chance the Rapper does this, you know? I mean, and I mean, I feel the same way with us as composers. You know, I wonder if there's a time where composers will become influencers or this kind of thing. And I'm just spitballing here, you know, who the heck knows? But and they start their own publishing houses, or they're doing they become institutions. They're the ones commissioning. They're the ones like having the cards rather than like an orchestra or like an academic institution. Like, to me, that's the positive part about all of this stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that it takes the power back to the creators. I mean, but then, like you said, it takes someone that sees that they cannot do everything on their own. Like, they're going to have to hire people, and then they become a business and an institution and themselves. And what is going to stop them from becoming like an academic institution or an orchestra, like what's going to stop them from becoming the thing they wanted to replace? So this is the kind of stuff I think about, you know?
No, absolutely. And it depends how ideology, like it depends on your ideology, right? If you are more financially oriented, which is, I'm not saying that is good or bad or wrong or right. There is no such a thing. It's just...
Well, everybody is financially oriented.
Yes.
We all need we all need to have some money to do what we do.
But I would say the attitude, like for example, Murat and I, my husband, great master engineer. The details down below.
Yeah, down in the description below, of course. And DMR's SoundCloud and website down in the description below.
We have different attitudes when it comes to work. I'm the type of person, I do my work, I get it done, and then I'm chilling. Like, very transactional in a way. I don't know, it's because time has passed.
When you say chilling, do you mean like during the time of the day, or like you work like, I don't know, 2 weeks straight, all day, all night, and then like you take like a week off?
Kind of.
The latter way, not the...
No, the latter, yeah, the second one that you said.
The second one, okay,
Yes.
so like more like burn yourself to the ground and then
Yes.
get a fire out of that,
Exactly.
phoenix out of the ashes way.
Yeah. Like so,
I'm more the formal way now.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's an ADHD thing. But Murat is so passionate, like he lives for his work and he loves doing that. He loves mastering, he loves spending time making music, producing other music, mixing, recording. Like he's so passionate. He's like, there is so much to know and I need to know it all. Like this, like I need to be the best. Like, and it's just this challenge with himself.
Curiosity,
Yeah, and curiosity. I'm like, my curiosity is my project at the moment, and I'm gonna learn a lot, and I know I'm gonna get better and whatever. But it's like, again, everyone has different approaches on how to make music. And for Murat, is that, of course, he wants to make money and whatnot, but his reward is the knowledge, while my reward is my free time.
I see. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to be thinking about music in my spare time. I want to just be doing other things.
Yeah.
Straight up, just chilling, watching movies. Like really because I'm also a really huge fan of things. So.
Yeah, other things besides music. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm very similar in that way too.
So I think that attitude is very different. Like I love music, but I don't live for it. And again, it's just every relationship that you have, it just mutates. And this is at this point that I am like this. And maybe it's related to the fact that I'm still doing a doctorate program.
Yeah.
And that might change in the future when I'm out, because it all depends.
And you're still not in the, you're still not in your end phase. Mm-hmm. Whereas like you're still not in that zone where it's like, okay, I know I'm going to do this for the next 10, 15 years, like this kind of schedule.
Yeah.
Whereas like my wife, you know, she just got this job at a law firm, and it looks like last 3 months, that's when she started. And to me, as the husband, I am like, I'm in the ebb and flow of it. Like I feel like, okay, now I understand her schedule and how she works, and now I'm like kind of molded around that, which I actually like because it gives me a lot of freedom to do this and whatever I want. And I think that's the big problem with artists, that especially when there's two together, is that it's not that they're both artists, that's not the problem. It's that there's this, like what you're saying, this constant change of what are the priorities in their art and what, and of course the financial part of it is part of it too, but it's that first part is like the scheduling is always different. The priorities of what you care about in that time are always different, because that's part of being an artist. And there's like, it's very difficult especially if both people are not in that, I don't know, end phase is kind of a weird way to say it, but like this, at least a constant phase maybe is a better thing to say, you know?
So, I mean, sometimes like the older you get, well, that's the hope that I've been into the Taylor Swift album, like I get older but not wiser. I mean, the idea is that you get wiser. Anyways, I just remembered that. In any case, the older you get, or the how you grow with your career. It's something that you have to accept. Like, you have to accept the attitude that you're in at that moment and stop struggling and judging yourself. Like, I'm not this type of composer. Like, I admire so many composers because I feel I lack those traits.
That's an interesting way to look at it, though.
Because, like, I don't know, like, composers with huge careers that are so invested, and the only thing they talk about and post about is being a composer in academia. And I'm like, I really admire that, but I cannot be that.
That's also not reality.
Yeah,
nobody knows what I do besides this. You know what I mean? Or actually, probably nobody knows what I do, period, because I'm out here in New Jersey. Nobody knows what I do. I could be just out in the backyard with Ivy the whole time.
Yeah.
Nobody, you don't really know.
No, well, yes.
You know, you see it on, that's the thing about social media is bad for our brains, is that it creates these, I don't personally think that's very healthy. And at least for me, when I see other people doing things that like what you said, like, oh, I can never do that, or, I don't know, my first reaction, maybe it's just the way I grew up, my first reaction is, okay, how do they do that, you know? And is that something I actually want to do? And then I either do it or I just say, oh, that's not for me, and I just never think about it again. If that makes sense. I don't know if I can come up with a specific example for that.
No, I think I got you. But yes.
For example, like somebody gets signed with a publisher, let's say. I'm like, you know, that's really great for them. You know, I'm really happy for them, but I don't think that could ever be me. You know, and I would look into it first. But okay, what is it actually like to be with the publisher? All right, they take 50% of your, of your royalties. They're going to take 90% of your sales. All right, they're going to have control over what your next commissions are. Oh, you know, you always have to check in with them, and the relationship is always like they're the superior, like you're like their subordinate. It's not the other way around. Like, you're working for them, not the other way. And I'm like, you know what? That doesn't jive with my personality or what I want to be like. So that publisher thing is out the door. Like, for me, at least in my mind, like I don't care. It's not something I build towards. Like, it's just out of my system. But I looked into it. Like, actually, what do they actually do? Like, that's not for me, out of my system. So every time I see somebody getting published or whatever, it's like, okay, that's great for them. That's probably good for their situation, but it's not for me. It's not like I don't get this feeling. I'm like, oh my God, like I should be. Why is it not me? You know, I don't get that.
But I don't get it like that. I'm like, wow, they're so great. I really admire they're like that. But I don't know. Part of it, I think, is fear of commitment. Like for example, I don't wanna publishing house. I don't wanna tie it down yet. You know, like I wanna see my options. Yeah. But there is a downside of looking for your options.
Yes, then you're kind of like in no man's land.
Exactly.
When you're doing that. So you kind of have to decide, okay, what am I gonna do now? And you gotta stick with it.
Yes.
And then if it doesn't work out, then you kind of rehash things. But I guess because I guess my brain does work in a business way. I mean, for sure, because like when you're in a business, the plan is to stick with the plan.
Yes.
Like if you keep changing plan, you have no plan.
Exactly.
So stick with the plan for X number of years, and even if it's feels like it's not working out, you know, you have to stick to it. And then maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line, all right, did this work? Did this not work? And be very honest. And if it didn't work, out the door. Yeah. Like with this thing I'm doing with the YouTube thing, you know, it's been 6 months. So far, it's going pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, maybe in a year it'll die, and then I'll be like, you know what, this was fun. I had enjoyed myself, but
let's see.
We got to move on if things are not going in a positive direction. And boom, out. At least I tried it, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing is that I actually do enjoy teaching, and I've been doing a lot of. This year, for some reason, NYU didn't have enough TAs. So they asked Columbia, and I'm like, okay, yeah, why not? I mean, I should be taking my dissertation year off, but I'm also, I just decided, why not? I want to connect with other people and see what it's like to be in another institution. And I realized that I do have, when you project a lot of your traumas onto something. So in NYU, I felt more accepted. Why? I don't know, than I do with Colombia.
Like when you're teaching or just in general?
In general.
Oh, interesting.
Like even teaching and in general. And maybe it's because the attitude in the university is a little bit different. Like Colombia is very competitive, and again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, it's just how the culture in the university is.
It's the Ivy League also.
Exactly.
When people get into an Ivy League school, it's like, I'm in the Ivy League.
Yeah. And NYU is a lot more chill. Like, I'm here to learn. If I learn well, good. I mean, and if not, well, it's on me.
Yeah, USC was like that too. Yeah, USC was like play hard, work hard kind of mentality.
Yeah. And I'm more that. Like, I felt that my attitude fits more like with NYU as a culture. The Colombian, I'm like, okay, I always thought that I was on the wrong for not feeling welcome at Colombia. I'm like, no, it's maybe part of it, yes, it's the culture, but it's also my attitude towards it. Like, I feel that also I'm more open with NYU because I don't know, it felt, there are things that I cannot explain, but it felt that more on my, okay, this is the type of university I would like to teach, for example. And I'm okay that it's not like Ivy League, or because I value my comfort in that sense, like feeling a little bit more included, feeling that I don't have to be like the best all the time, look all my awards, and it's just like I want to take my time, I want to digest.
Yeah, and you value your like day-to-day life and not your resume.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even though you still will have Colombia on your resume.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, I think part of the
that all being said, by the way, you still will have this, and this. But it's not like you're not.
No. I do. I mean, of course, I cared. And when I got into grad school, I got into UCSD, which was my dream school.
Yeah, it's great for composition. A lot of people don't know, but UCSD. People always ask me, "Oh, I want to get into UC." Like people contact me, "I want to get into USC, UCLA," and that's especially if they're on the West Coast. I'm like, "What about UCSD?"
It's so great.
Hello.
Yeah, and that was my dream. I got in. Like, I got like the notice a week after. Like they were like, "We want you. Call us if you get somewhere."
At Columbia?
No, at
right,
UCSD.
Okay.
And I was like, the first time I just felt accepted. Like, I'm like, I want to go there.
Did they offer do they offer a package there?
Yeah.
It's not as much as Columbia?
Now it's a lot better than what they offer me.
But it's also cheaper to live out there.
But not as...
Not really? Well, La Jolla is pretty expensive, yeah. La Jolla specifically, yeah.
And I got into Cornell at Columbia and got waitlisted at CUNY. So it was pretty decent for the applications. And
were you so there's a lot of people now that are applying to school, so maybe they'll skip ahead to this part. I don't know, this is pretty late in the thing, but I'm glad you're talking about this. Were you in Colombia, like the country, before this, but you were in Boston before this? Which one was it?
I was in Boston. So I did the marching music in Colombia, then I moved to Miami, did my undergrad, and then I moved to Boston to do my master's. And I stayed another 3 years. Yeah. And I was a barista in Boston when I was applying to...
So there wasn't that as much difficulty as if you went straight from, Colombia to the US. Like you were already established in the US. Yeah. So like for people that are trying to go to like an American college, I guess you did go to an American college from You went to the college in Florida. Yeah. Straight from there. So there was a way in, and then once you got in, you found a way to stay.
Yes. Yes. So
sorry, I'm backtracking, but I think this is super important to talk about.
Something about my trajectory that I found really special is that I have a taste of every single American university experience, because I didn't go to a college, I went to a community college because I didn't know English, I didn't speak English, and they're like, you need to start somewhere. I was supposed to go and do 11th grade and 12th grade. In high school, because in Colombia we graduate in 11th grade. Okay. And my parents were like, well, but you need to do the high school here so you can do better transition. I'm like, okay, I do half a year more of 11th grade or whatever. And I'm ready to go to the school. It was a hot mess. And then the principal is like, we cannot accept your daughter. And my parents are like, what? Because she's already graduated. She has a high school degree. We cannot accept her. She needs to go directly to college. And my dad is like, what? Yeah, why don't you go to Miami-Dade? And that's like the funny thing about Miami, like an inside joke has been Miami. Like if everything fails, you go to Miami-Dade.
Oh, really?
Miami-Dade College. I love the college so much.
But that was 2 years, like a community college?
Yeah, well, it was longer for me.
Yeah.
So I spent a long time in English, and also I was taking all the music classes, but not the requirements.
Did you have to take the TOEFL?
I took the TOEFL.
Didn't pass it, or?
Because of the high school thing, I had to take it twice to make sure I was able to transfer to another school. So after Miami-Dade College, I went to New York School of the Arts, and it's not associated with the New World Symphony.
Right. Yeah.
You have no idea how many auditionees would go to our building, and it's like, no, it's not in downtown. It's actually Miami Beach. You need to go to Miami Beach.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good
You're
luck
like
there.
half an hour there.
You're already late.
Yeah. So, a New York School of the Arts is a partnership between University of Florida, Miami-Dade College, Miami-Dade High School, because this program is a combination of high school kids and college. It's really weird, but again, fantastic place. And I transferred there, so I had to do a TOEFL because I applied to University of Miami, and I applied to New World to do my transfer so I can get my degree, because you know how community college work. That you just have 2-year program, and then you get your associates, which I did, and then you transfer. I transferred to this school. I spent 2 years and a half, and I graduated, and then I moved to Boston to do my master's and a certificate. So it was 3 years. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take a break and see how our things are from the outside. And that's when I was a hostess in this really great restaurant in Watertown called Branch Line.
That's near Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just, yes. 40-minute walk from my house, which is not bad.
40-minute walk is not bad.
It's not bad. I mean,
sounds bad to me, especially in the winter in Boston.
Oh yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad. I had fun being a hostess and walking 10 minutes to the bus to take it for 50 minutes and drop me off, whatever it needed to be. And then I became a barista at Pavement, another really good coffee shop. And I spent there the next 3 years. And then I met my husband during those 3 years. Yes, and then he's like, what are your next steps? And he kind of pushed me. You should go to grad school.
Really?
Again.
Oh, it was him that pushed.
Yeah, I mean, it was in my head.
In your head, you needed that. You needed that support.
Yes,
that extra push.
What is really beautiful, my relationship. Like, he is a person. He is so great because after I met him, he's like, "Yo, by the way, Philippe Hurel is coming, and he's giving lessons. Are you free these times?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "Okay, you have a lesson with Philippe Hurel. Peace." And go to Josh Feinberg's office at this, whatever. So I got a lesson without being at BU.
Back door.
So again, if you're a barista, you don't get any support, and you have like community matters because of this reason. Someone that gives you the little push and gives you a little, hey, why don't you do this? Or this is a way that I can help you. And it's nothing big, it's just...
But you were like composing, because I mean, obviously you got into Colombia after this, so you must have had a portfolio. I mean, you must have had stuff going on to get into Colombia.
Yeah.
So what was going, like how did you transition from that to like all of a sudden you're in this full blown like, DMA program?
So there were two things. So part of it was Murad, who helped me get in private lessons with composers, visiting composers at BU. And the other thing that really helped me, it was my mom helped me pay 2 festivals.
Like summer festivals?
Summer festivals.
Yeah, because they always cost.
They cost.
Yeah,
and it was basic because I'm a Cancer, and all the festivals are in summer. So it was like, birthday? Can you help me with this in my birthday?
Yeah.
And that was the other big push that would help me update my portfolio and meet more people and network. And again, this is a position of privilege, right? Like, my mom was able to help me with that.
Well, I mean, that word bothers me, because privilege to me connotates that it came from somewhere that you didn't work hard for it. And your mom, obviously worked for every dollar that she saved up. So it's like she saved it for you. She had it for a rainy day, and it happened to be you needed it at that time. And then at some point you will also give back. So it all goes in a nice little circle.
Yeah. But that's the thing about diversity and equity that I kind of disagree how people are thinking about it, or how it's perceived by institutions. That I believe that each person walks between the line of privilege and victimization at all times, and this happens because we're intersectional. We live in a myriad of realities in parallel, right? Like if I'm a Latina, but I'm white Latina, it's a very different reality than a Black Latina. It is what it is, and I have that privilege, and it's something that I didn't ask. It's not. But I could also be, I'm a Latina, poor of me. And no, it's always walking that fine line and getting comfortable with what feels uncomfortable. Like, yes, my mom worked hard and helped me, but there are people that cannot be able to do that. So I have to recognize that happens. And it's just a recognition of that privilege, than saying my mom did not work hard for this, or that I did not, because again, I was working full-time of payment. So I would have to wake up at 5, have my shift 6 to 2, and then my free time, it was writing music.
Yeah, I mean, you saying all this, it makes, it's like not everybody's path. I think it's really important for you to share. Especially now, because people are applying, and like not everyone's path is the same. Mm-hmm. Not everybody grew up with big conservatory training, or like a lot of piano lessons every week with like the top people. Or any of this stuff. Like it was kind of like really a grind for you, it sounds like, and you didn't even know you were going to do like it was not even on your mind to do a PhD. Like for me, it was always like kind of there, like, okay, you're probably going to do a master's, and it was like I took it for granted, for sure, 100%, Oh yeah, definitely, I'll get into a program that pays my way, and like, I'm not even going to worry about any, like I definitely recognize that part of it. Mm-hmm, but I think that, like with your husband helping you along, like that's also a form of support. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a privilege, because I think everybody deserves some kind of support. I don't think it's a privilege. Yeah. I think everybody, to go through life, needs a little bit of this.
Of course. When I say privilege, just to finish, that is, it's just recognizing that my social context is very different. It's different in a way, like, and every single person, even the most marginalized communities, they have some privileges too that I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And is that, it's not, I don't want to be like, oh, the bad guy, or sounding bad or wrong, or have a negative connotation about the word. But just coming back, I also got, with Murad, also gave me another lesson with Lisa Lim.
Oh wow. Yeah, just like that?
Yeah, and she was like, he was like, okay, Lisa's giving lessons from these are the slots, the times, when are you available? And I'm like, this time, okay, just show up.
Wow.
And I went there and like, hi, hello. She really liked my music, and then she's like, and it was during the time of applications.
Hey. No, it's fine. She probably heard something. All right, Ivy is coming up now. Ivy, easy. Easy, sorry.
Oh, Mom.
Scare the crap out of everyone. I know. You don't like talking. You don't like when people talk. So this is Ivy the mini dachshund. She has an Instagram, by the way. That's what Instagram is for. Showing this thing. Shh. Come on, easy, 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 easy. All right, let's see if she calms down.
And she liked my music, and she's like, so where's next? And I'm like, I'm just applying to doctorates. Where are you applying? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing the typical like Harvard and Colombian, ECCE, Brandeis, CUNY, Cornell, and that's it. Let me hook you up with Haya Chernobyl.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna email her. I'm gonna
Professor at Harvard.
Yeah. And I got a lesson with Haya. So it's just one person can make that difference in your life. Just that little support of, hey, I have access to something. And those lessons were vital, because when you are of the conservatory, you don't have access to professors, especially if you're like a barista.
Right, yeah, I mean, especially out of school.
Yeah. So those lessons were like definitely richest lessons I had during that time. And I kind of, I really liked that, not having lessons all the time, but like just a really impactful one that can make the change.
And that kind of led you to think that, okay, I would like to keep doing this kind of thing.
Yes.
So that's why a PhD program type of thing would fit your...
And it got between UCSD and Columbia, and that's just coming back to the thing about ideology, because I kind of went tangent on that. My dream school was UCSD, and Columbia was just, this is gonna get me more opportunities.
Yeah.
So in a way, I feel like I had to betray one of my core values, or that's how I interpret it. And I wasn't as kind to myself as I should have, you know. So in that regard, like, that's why part of the issue that I struggled being at Columbia is that I felt that I didn't stay by my guns. I didn't stay by my ideology.
I mean, that's an important lesson, like what you're saying, because I kind of felt a similar way. For my undergrad, I was deciding between USC and then the Columbia Juilliard exchange program. And I was like, oh my God, Columbia, because you do lessons at Juilliard, then you get your degree at Columbia. Like, oh my God, this is like amazing. Like, this is the best thing that could ever happen to me. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it took a lot of persuasion from my parents. That's a big part of it, to make me realize that, no, USC is where I belong, you know, right now. And that was like a really good decision. But if I did Columbia Juilliard thing at that time, I don't know if I would have felt like, oh, you know, I should have been at USC. So it's hard to tell with these things. Like, you know, you could have been at UCSD and then felt the same way. Like, oh my God, I could have been in New York. And, so it's really hard to.
I mean,
those things are very hard to kind of think about, you know, after the fact.
And it's not like everything is. I mean, the faculty is fantastic at Columbia. They're great. So it's nothing, it's more of a general culture and the perception of the institution than the institution itself. Seth Cluett has been a huge support. Sosha has been such a huge support. It's a great place in many respects. Like, you have so much freedom that you wouldn't have in a more heavy loaded PhD program. Like, you have to do 5 musicology seminars. You have to write the 40. We do write those papers. It's not like it's an easy breezy, beautiful kind of thing, but it has a lot more liberties than you wouldn't have in a.
Yeah, like if you went to CUNY, like CUNY Graduate Center, that place has a lot more research focus. I don't know why it took me so long to convince him to go to CUNY, but he got into CUNY for a PhD. and he was just waiting on other places. I said, accept that offer you just got, because he loves doing research. He loves. He was somebody on the podcast, on this podcast. Sammy Saif. He's Lebanese, actually, also composer. And I told him, you know, like, you should take this offer because you love doing research. You like music. He's really into music theory, and you know, this is a good match for you. And you can be in New York. He's never been in New York. Like, you can be there for at least 5 years, fully funded. Like, what's your issue? Just accept the offer and move on. So there are sometimes it's more obvious. Like, to me, it was from the outside. And I think it takes someone on the outside to like assess your situation. Obviously, you do what you want, but I think that also helps. So he like took that offer pretty reasonably quickly after I told him that, and so far it seems like he enjoys being there. But that's what happened to me when especially my undergrad. It was like between USC and this Columbia Juilliard program. You know. A similar thing kind of happened to me for my master's. I was deciding between Rice, which was fully funded, and Juilliard, which I had to pay for. And I was kind of leaning towards Rice, but it was like the second time I got accepted to Juilliard. It's like, well, if you reject them a second time, well, that's it. You know, you're not, you know, you're like a scab to them or something. So, and I got the teacher that I wanted there. So I said, okay, let's just, it's only 2 years, bite the bullet, and then, you know, see what happens after that. It was only a 2-year commitment. So I went with the place that was kind of not in my gut, to be honest with you, because I heard so many good things about Rice and the
me too.
And the culture and the way the composers are treated and how the musicians love to work with the composers there, which is not really the case at Juilliard. So, but at the end of the day, I'm still happy I went to Juilliard. Like I met my wife there, you know. I wrote music there that helped me get into Columbia. So it was a net positive. You know? So I always try to look at it that way, I guess. Like, what were the positive things that I got out of it? And I think, you know, Columbia did a lot of positive things.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So anyway, well, thanks again for being here. You know, it's amazing. First Columbia guest. Hopefully we'll have more. And there you go. That means we're done for the. All right. Her details are down in the description. You can hear her music. And thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so lovely. Thank you. Thank you. It's been great.